for your accommodation and your consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity. Mr. Director, how are you this morning?
Yeah, thank you. Very well.
Good. Thank you for being here. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to talk to you about a subject that I've been familiar with for a long, long time. And I'm speaking specifically to the dynamic of immigration and its impact on our economy. Coming from the state of California, not just the most populous state in the nation, the most diverse state in the nation, home to more immigrants than any state in the nation. And it has the largest economy of any state in the nation as well. So we know full well that immigration and the contributions of immigrants is critical to the economy and critical to the growth of the United States. And now, thanks to the hard work of the CBO, you've all crunched the numbers and now project that U.S. revenue will be $1.2 trillion higher over the next 10 years because of the impact of migrants and migrants in the workforce as we see it today. And I would imagine that given my Republican colleagues' obsession with our debt, that they would welcome the news that CBO also found that this increased immigration, migrants, and their impact on the workforce leads to lower deficits. So it seems like it's something that we ought to embrace. So would you please speak to how the CBO was able to quantify the economic benefits of immigration and what the impact would be on revenues to the federal treasury if more than 10 million undocumented immigrants, many in the workforce, were to be deported?
Yes, so we haven't analyzed the deportation, but there's a sense in which it would be the opposite of the immigration increase that you mentioned. And so we said there's about a $9 trillion increase in GDP from the immigrants coming in. They add to the labor force, they pay taxes, they fill jobs. And so deportation would in some sense reverse that there'd be a big negative hit to GDP, the labor force would shrink, and revenue would go down.
Okay. That seems pretty logical to me, so thank you for that. I know you're from the CBO, not the Department of Labor, but I also think if we look at the data that is out there, even with the level of migration we've seen in the course of the last decade, we are experiencing record sustained low levels of unemployment. And wages continue to rise. So for those concerned, those who spread the false rhetoric that, well, immigrants are taking American jobs or they're a downward force on wages, that has proven to be false. Do you have any data that would suggest otherwise?
No, that's right. That there's a sense in which the immigration surge explains how our economy continued to grow rapidly and create jobs, even when the labor market, say 2 years ago, looked to be tight. It's the immigrants adding to the labor force. These are additional jobs and additional income.
Right. So I also want to ask about a related dynamic that is a priority concern for this committee. See, Senator Braun has joined us, and he's always one of the first, if not the first, to raise concerns about the debt. We're talking about the contributions of immigrants to the workforce and to the economy, and the net benefit that there's been on revenues, debt reduction, et cetera. But we also speak in this committee regularly about the solvency of our social safety net programs, particularly Social Security and Medicare. Now, between 2010 and 2020, the U.S. saw its slowest population growth of any decade since the 1930s. And it presents a huge challenge to those social safety net programs that rely on current workers to fund the benefits for America's retirees. And we know that immigrants help sustain the programs like Social Security and Medicare, even though they don't benefit from those programs themselves. In 2022 alone, immigrants paid over $570 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. So would you please discuss the impact on the solvency of our social safety net programs if, due to potential change in our immigration policies, we would realize a significant reduction in our workforce?
Yeah, and so we looked carefully at the composition of the immigration surge, and they're very heavily skewed toward working age adults. These are immigrants have a high propensity to work, and they have a strong incentive to work on the books once they receive authorization, generally within 6 months. Many of them will face a hearing in 7 to 10 years, and working on the books will let them in some demonstrate attachment. So all of that means more revenue for Social Security, increases the financial, improves the financial situation of the Social Security system, and and that's again, it's just like the overall revenue. Some of it goes to Social Security.
Okay. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.